Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. This is a reading for Aries moon, or if you have significant Aries placements and are needing a feminine energy to work with or balance within yourself, then this reading is for you. So Aries, really interesting reading today. We're going to get started with the bottom of the deck energy. So this is the overall context of the reading. We're starting here with the portal of the withering, the 9 of spades, which is really interesting because it talks about there's like something that's leaving your life, and it's kind of just like you're letting it go. And then with this one here, because the next card in the progression is portal for the living, right? It's like you're walking through some period of letting things go, and as a result of that, it's bringing you into some sort of new life or some sort of like renewal of life, perhaps. And then here you have the ace after that, right? So it's a 9-10 and then the new start. The natural magic card, which is talking about all of that sort of ebb and flow of the natural magic, that there is something absolutely that's leaving your life. It could be that you are actually walking away from something or making new decisions is kind of how this is feeling, like different choices, because I feel like you're being pulled towards something, right? It's like you're something is pulling you forward into whatever this new direction is. And it's really interesting because you have here in the tarot, I'm not going to go through each of these individually, but you do have the the 8 of cups twice, right? Really significant sort of making a new choice, walking away from something that's not satisfying. And then what you're stepping into is all of this gorgeous energy. You have the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Cups, 8 of Wands, 2 of Wands, which is kind of talking about like it's going to be really quick, or there's a lot of energy, like a renewal of life is what it's feeling like. Renewal of life, and perhaps significant sort of soulmates or soul connections that are going to be made in this new phase, whatever it is that you're going through. So it could be that you're leaving like old relationships or like something like that. It could be, doesn't have to be. But it's like you're moving into something really gorgeous here with like, so this is the energy that you're walking away from, right? Knight of Wands, 5 of Wands. So a lot of sort of fiery energy, Perhaps it's like something that like could be something like short term, or like not short term, perhaps maybe like short. It's kind of like a short term gain kind of energy, right? Like pleasure seeking, perhaps that kind of thing. That's what's coming to an end because you're going towards the 4 of Wands, which is like a very stable, belonging kind of celebration energy coming together or something. And what's really interesting here, I love these cards so much. The Mountain card, which I knew was going to come out today because I kept seeing it during the pre-shuffle. So this card is kind of like a hanged man meets hermit kind of energy. Like you're purposely perhaps retreating from a situation, right? Like or even just like gaining some sort of higher perspective. Perhaps looking back on your past as well. That could be a really significant thing. Like you're looking back or gaining perspective on past events, past behaviors, past relationships, and letting all of that go, because what you're stepping into is this renewed life or new life, perhaps. And then what I love here, you have the animal and the kairos. I love when these two cards come out together, because this animal card sometimes comes through so it's like our pure nature, right? Something about like your biology. It doesn't have to be related to biology though. It could just be like your pure nature, right? And when this card is out of alignment, it could be something like feeling caged, right? Like a caged animal. But when it comes out with the kairos, which I love, I see this as being like the animal aspect of you, right? Like the pure nature, the one that like your reflexes, your fears, all of that becomes integrated with time and with experience. And so I feel like there's there's this dynamic happening for you where it's like this aspect of yourself has now become integrated because of this sort of this mountain, right? Like you've climbed the mountain, you're at the top of the mountain, you're looking back on some aspect of your past, letting things go that need to be let go, and stepping into this like brand new cycle with the one and the medallion as well, which I love so much. The medallion actually today is with the Ace of Pentacles. This card talks about legacy. It's like you're starting something that's going to be a very long-term kind of cycle. And there I'm gonna leave this there. It's gonna come back through in the reading. So we'll talk about that. The first 3 cards here, you have the thread, the threshold, and the temple, which is really interesting. So there's this dynamic. It's been happening a lot recently, Aries, in the last couple of readings, where I'm not sure which energy is yours. I want to say that yours is the thread, right? So it's kind of like, but you could also be the threshold energy, and I'll explain both. You could also be both of these energies in some aspect of your life, where the thread card is talking to me about like feeling a tug to go in a certain direction, right? So it's like you're feeling this tug. Well, I don't know, because these cards are so interesting and like the colors are reversed, right? This energy is almost making it difficult for me to speak. Okay, so I'm going to say that the way that this was coming out is kind of like you are interacting with some sort of energy, the one card, that is simultaneously, like, it's pulling on you and you're pulling on it. There is this energy where it's like you're both pulling on each other, and it's kind of like you're needing to sort of meet in this energy, the temple space. Because I see this as sort of like a space that you go to connect with like your higher self. Could be that kind of thing. So it could be that, but this energy here doesn't feel like your higher self, the threshold, whatever it is that's pulling on you. It feels like something else. It feels like a potential, right? It feels like something that is going to grow into something. So it's not your higher self, but it's like through your higher self, you're making this connection with this other, is kind of how I'm seeing this with the threshold. And it's like you're pulling on each other to try and meet in the middle. And it feels really significant. The energy that was coming through with this, of which I'll talk about in a second. Not quite yet. Okay, so this energy here, it's really like the cards that are out for you. Myth of the Fractal Tree. So this card is a really big energy because it talks about like when you're at a choice point, a significant choice point, it's kind of like you can see all of the potential, like almost infinite possibilities that are possible with this significant choice. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you, because I feel like, Aries, you're already stepping into this, like it's already pulled on you. And so because it's pulled on you, because you've perhaps said yes to it, it's now revealing all of these potentials, or all of this, like, it can be overwhelming, actually. But what's interesting is you also have here the God of life and death, which is so incredible because of that whole, like, the withering and the living, right? The two opposites, that those are somehow pulling. There's a lot of that energy. There's a lot of this sort of like ending energy, some sort of death rebirth cycle is happening right now for you. And because you're being pulled and you're pulling on whatever this energy is, like you're on the threshold of something, some energy is pulling on you and you're absolutely stepping into it, is kind of how it's feeling. So again, more of this sort of, if I can pick up the cards, you have here the portal for the sunset, right? It's this moment where something is coming to an end. but at the other side of it, it's a spark. So the vibe that I was getting with this combination of cards, there's this movie called Soul. It's a Pixar movie. So if you haven't seen it, just quickly to summarize, the main character, he goes through a transition, right? He dies and goes into like the other side. And there he becomes a mentor for unborn souls, right? So for souls who have not yet been born. And if you in that story, the whole story is that, well, he's trying to get back to his old life. He wants to be alive again, right? He wants to go back to that old life. But he gets paired with an unborn soul. Very significant. It's this energy, the threshold, one that is full of potential with the spark. Some energy that is full of potential, right? Potential energy. It's like it hasn't yet come into being. And in that pairing, because that soul that he was paired with had, the whole point of that story is that the unborn souls needed a mentor in order to help them to find their soul spark, right? The reason for them to be incarnated into Earth. And in that story, it's like this unborn soul that the mentor had been paired with could not find their soul spark, right? They couldn't find it. They tried everything. They tried all the different activities that were sort of laid out for them in order for them to find the soul spark, and they couldn't find it. And so they had become extremely sort of like jaded by the experience, right? Like really just like worn down. They just felt like there would never be a time for them to realize their potential because they hadn't found this spark. And with the portal of the sunset is what I'm seeing is that in that story, that soul ended up, even though they hadn't found their soul spark, because they were paired with this mentor, which I'm seeing as you today, Ari. I'm seeing you as the mentor, right? The one with experience, the one who is bringing some sort of experience to somebody. It could be a somebody that hasn't reached their potential yet, hasn't found their soul spark, perhaps. And it's like through that story, it's like the mentor brought the soul into Earth, right? They they broke the rules, kind of brought that soul into Earth. And it wasn't until they went through this experience, right? The sunset, actually going down to Earth, that they found the soul spark, because they couldn't find it where they were, right? Their soul spark actually was just like witnessing a sunset. The last couple of readings have been so emotional. I feel like there's a lot of just like a lot of emotional energy that's being moved through the collective right now. So it's what this is saying, Aries, is that you've been paired with or matched with some sort of energy that hasn't reached their full potential yet, because they're needing some sort of specific experience, right, to come together with you in some way in order to experience that soul spark. Because where they are now it's like it's not there. They're not going to find that spark where they are now. You have to pull them through this sunset, pull them through this threshold in order for them to find the soul spark, right? That's what they're searching for. So it's like you are being brought together with someone who is trying to discover this aspect or trying to find this aspect, and it's like it is coming together. I feel like for you, Aries, the issue will be saying yes to it. I feel like you're already inclined to doing that. It's kind of like perhaps you're at the decision point of like seeing all the potential outcomes of whatever this perhaps partnership or oneness, union, if you want to use that word, is going to create. Okay, Aries, if we go into the tarot, so the first two cards that you have here are the Fool and the Magician, which I absolutely love, because I feel like because you're in this energy, this is what's coming in. This is all about a new cycle. You're leaving a really significant cycle behind, but I feel like it's like you already know that. You've been in that for a while. It's kind of how it's feeling with the portal of the withering, and you're ready. You are ready to step into this new cycle with this energy. And I feel like what's interesting here is that you have these 3 cards with the King of Swords, the Two of Cups, and the Empress. So I'm seeing you as the Empress with the Two of Cups. And then with the King of Swords, this is a really interesting energy because this is opposite to what an Aries moon would be, right? Because obviously opposite Aries is Libra. And because we're talking about moon energies, this would be the opposite. So it's kind of like, perhaps this is the other energy. It kind of feels like, but it could also be you as well, Aries, is kind of how I'm getting. This is why it's kind of like the last couple of readings have been really sort of nebulous in terms of like who is who in the situation, or like you're kind of both at the same time, where it's like I feel like because this is an opposite energy to you, Aries, it's kind of feeling like you've because this card talks to me about mastery as well, so it could be that you've mastered some aspect of your perhaps shadow side, right, in order to like create this new beginning opportunity, right? It's like you are putting an end to, especially with this combination of cards, putting an end to any sort of like energies that were not serving you, perhaps, in order to create this new beginning. And because of that, you may be in this King of Swords, although I feel like this is more so the energy of the mentor. So again, there's so much. You are a mentor for some other thing, right? Like you're the energy that's pulling in this potential. And then there is perhaps another mentor who is also helping you to pull in that potential, if that makes sense. So there's that kind of dynamic where it's like you're helping somebody's helping you. And there's a coming together with that, with the Two of Cups, right? So like it's a partnership of like you and somebody else. This could be like a guide, even, is how it's coming through. It could be a guide. But what's interesting here is that you have here the Nine of Wands. So this Nine of Wands, it actually came out twice, right? So again, with that story of like the movie Soul, that the unborn soul, right, the one with all the potential, was very much in a Nine of Wands. Sorry, did I say swords earlier? Nine of Wands energy, because to me this is talking about someone who's gone through many, many disappointments, many battles, where it's kind of like they've gone through a lot, and so they're acting from a place of like, oh well, like it's just expecting a lot of disappointments, right? But I feel like this is also your energy as well, Aries, that you are healing, because the next card to come out was the Four of Swords, right? It's like, I feel like the reason why you're being paired or matched together is because you've healed this aspect of the Nine of Wands. Or if you haven't healed it, it's like that's what you're being asked to do by this King of Swords. Healing this energy of like expecting disappointment or expecting the worst or expecting difficulty, perhaps expecting challenges. That could be your energy, and it's like you're being paired with them or you're being matched with this potential, because this potential also has this energy of like they also expect the worst. I was just getting like it could be. It was feeling kind of like, especially with this Empress, like if you're wanting to have a child, for example, it's kind of like you are pulling on that energy and they're pulling on you, but it's like this unborn child somewhere in the ether, right? They're like floating around in the ether. That soul that you are going to bring into this world is carrying a lot of past life trauma, is kind of how this is feeling. So that's just one example. For you, it could be something else, right? It could be like you're just meeting somebody and they could also be carrying a lot of of trauma of some sort, right? They could be going through this sort of like healing and rest energy, and that's why it's kind of like it feels like that is a cycle that you've just left behind with the Four of Swords, right? You're integrating this energy of perhaps going through a lot of disappointments, and just like it's not, there's not, but it's like that's what you're healing. That's the point I'm trying to make. You're becoming a mentor for this one, or whatever it is, however the dynamic plays out, because you've healed this aspect of like getting rid of this Nine of Wands energy, which is not been serving you, right? It's like because you've connected with some aspect of like the natural magic, you're going into a living energy, like you found your soul spark, perhaps. And then what's interesting here is that you have these, so I'm seeing this is not your energy, right? So this is the Seven of Swords, which came out with the Nine of Wands. So I feel like this is the other energy, the potential energy, where it's kind of like there's, with the Seven of Swords, something like it's a self-sabotage, right? Because of the Nine of Wands energy. So it's kind of like they've tried a lot of options and none of them worked out. So now they're in this energy of like, okay, if none of the options are going to work out, I'm just going to take my share and leave kind of energy, where that's the self-sabotage, because, and that might be what you're needing to teach them, because the next few cards here that come out is like the King of Pentacles, the Hierophant, and the Chariot. And so this was coming through as being like, this might be what the wounding is, or like the disappointment, because this is all like stable energy, right? Like very, very stable, very solid, very secure energy. So, but that's what they're running away from. So they're running away from some sort of stability, potentially, that you could give them, right? As the Empress. Because the Empress is also very stable, but it's very opposite to this energy. So if this is your, because the wounding, or like if it's not wounding, the disappointment, let's say, has come from, like, there's a similarity between the two of you, between you and the potential energy. There's a similarity there, which is why you're being brought together, that they perhaps encountered some sort of disappointment with some sort of like institution, or some sort of authority figure, or perhaps like a stability factor. There was perhaps a lack of stability, or disappointments, because of the ones who are supposed to provide stability failed in some way, or something like that, right? This energy I'm seeing is the thing that has caused, like, that's what they're running from. They're running from security. But it's like that, like, I feel like for you, Aries, you are bringing some other aspect, because, again, this is Libra Taurus, right? So a lot of stability, but also opposite to your energy with the Libra energy. So it's kind of like, because as an Aries, right? Aries can be a lot of change with this all of this Wands energy, where it's kind of like, perhaps in the past you have like something that you might be healing is like acting too quickly, or being sort of an in and out energy, not being stable, not being reliable, maybe, perhaps. But I feel like because you've healed that aspect, right? That energy, right? The conflict, the in and out, the unreliability comes from this, the Nine of Wands, which is like feeling like there's been a lot of disappointments in the past. I'm using the word disappointments, even though it feels much stronger than that. So a lot of perhaps wounding, or a lot of whatever you want to put on it. There's a lot. This is an energy of expecting the worst from people or from situations because of past hurts. So that is what's coming to an end. And it's like you're becoming more fully integrated, right? Not acting out of like fear or wounding or disappointment. And in this Empress energy, which is incredibly stable and almost opposite to what you have been used to in previous experiences, is kind of how I'm seeing this Empress card. And because of that specific healing card with the star and the Two of Wands, that is what's allowing this energy to connect with you or be pulled in by you. And they're also pulling on you because you're representing a healed version of, or a healed or more integrated version of a past pain that they encountered in their past lives, if that makes sense. So it's like you're there to help them perhaps heal some aspect of their self-sabotaging behavior, perhaps, and healing sort of their disappointments with an energy of stability is how I'm seeing this. Okay, Libra. I'm going to end it there. I'm going to move to the extended. If you're interested in that, the link for that is in the description box below. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing, liking, or leaving a comment down below. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.